Somebody's following. Remind me to invite you to the best ice cream in Kyoto, okay? Ice cream with green tea inside. American ice cream. Yes, the best one in town. So, yes, about the flowers. The samurai said, duty is heavy like mountain. Life is light like a feather. Duty is heavy like mountain. Life is light like a feather. And the cherry, one cherry tree will bloom for very short time. 5 days. And the feather will go down. Very short. Beautiful. But in the middle of the peak, life is light like a feather. It's the Japanese actually worship this. The only thing that is permanent in the universe, you know what it is? I'll show you. You know him very well, this guy. I like him. Sorry? Do you know him? Schwarzenegger.
Oh, is it? Former governor.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Do you know who is this guy?
Same one.
Same one. Look again.
Uh-oh.
The only thing that is permanent in the universe is not Schwarzenegger, it's what? Impermanent. Everything changing. It's shocking.
I
But
love it.
the samurai already realized that. And they make it, instead of sad things, they make it into a party. Try to be here in the cherry blossom. You will not see him walking straight because they're drinking all day. Yeah, together with me. We drink cola together. We are cola fan. No, but I mean, it's a big party. Many times I tell my guests, the cherry blossom is not to see the flowers, is more to see the Japanese, the party around it. It's a big party because actually it's worshipping of the changing, of the how short everything and how it changes, and the beauty of it being as it is. Okay, the plum before that, beautiful, and the peach after that, it's beautiful, but they are too long to celebrate that. Okay, this is why the Japanese so much into the cherry. Let me see where we are. Yes. Anything you want to ask me which is not historical or something that you see around, you saw, you are interested in, you want to interested to hear about? Otherwise I will go on in my own way and maybe it doesn't fit you.
I'll say more about what you were starting to talk about with how America related to Japan after the war ended and kind of what happened then.
What happened is, and this was very interesting because the Americans didn't move in with force. What they did actually, they like they wrote the constitution, the new constitution of Japan, with what they until now actually regret about is with how do you call it, Article 9, which means Japan give up her right to have army. Yeah, the Americans regret that because they asked the Japanese to help in the Iraq war and others, and the Japanese said no, we don't have. And actually, what they have now, what Japan has now, is self-defense forces. They don't use the word army for that. And all the technique, all the technology, all the concept of this army is to hold for 2 weeks if needed until the American will come to save them. Until you will come to save. This is the concept. Because they are not supposed to have, they didn't develop long distance missiles or they don't use attacking techniques or tactics in their philosophy of the army. It's just defense army. This is why they don't send people. The last time they sent people is just how do you call it? Medical doctors into the war, and even that has big debate here in Japan. By the way, on our right side is the Emperor Palace. He doesn't live here anymore. He lived from here. He lived here until 1868, until he moved up to Tokyo, and then the capital became Tokyo and not Kyoto. Today is a big park of the city, which is very beautiful. They built inside a huge, not long ago, a few years ago, a very big and very impressive national guest house. The first visitor was your president that time, Bush. I was here in town You like him or not, it's a different point. But I was here in town, I was riding my bike, and they stopped everybody who moved around, like every car, every bike, everything. And I saw again and again helicopters was up in the air like 5 times, coming to land and up again, coming to land and up. They were really in panic about his safety, and he stayed there, the first guest in that place. Very, very elaborated. But use techniques that you might see even in some of the houses in Kyoto until now, what we call machiya, the town houses, like Ichiriki that we saw, and some houses in Kyoto still have this quality, and Kyoto even has this craftsmen still, and I take many times people. I have an American group coming, they will come in the beginning of March, not far from now, with the owner actually of, how does it call, that museum, Walker Institute in Minneapolis. They will come here and they will take them to see some artists in that level that can create these things for like imperial family. They create the kimonos and tapestry of imperial family, and the most important shrine in Japan, Ise. And we take them to see that kind of arts which is still exist here. It's very hard to find other places in Japan that has so much, I mean, the concentration of traditional, because originally the palace was here in the north of the city. Around it were the nobility, around them were all the guilds, all the craftsmen who supported the whole royal family and the nobility, and around the common people. So the craft's still here, and we actually will go on our drive, we'll pass the area that used to be the textile manufacture, all the kimonos and the textile manufacture of the whole country, basically. Today they are in much less busy because less people wear kimono, as you can see. So back to your question, so the American really never controlled directly, and they had a government and they were behind it, and many things were written by the Japanese, by the Americans. The Japanese couldn't write their constitution because they couldn't write something against the emperor, so they couldn't write. So then the American wrote it, gave it to them, and then they signed it up. But basically the actual ruling was done by Japanese with how do you say, monitoring by the Americans. So you didn't see army in the streets, you didn't see that. And something very interesting about the Japanese, which happened not just with the Americans, but this is maybe the second phase, from fighting to the last soldier in the Philippines and other places against the Americans. I want to remind, I don't know if you remember, but the Americans didn't put, in World War II, they didn't put the German or the Italian in camps. They put the Japanese. The Japanese were in camp. Very famous is Margaret Mead. You know her? Yep. She wrote a book called The Sword and the Chrysanthemum of the Sword. They put anthropologists there to understand who are these people who fight until the last soldier with no hesitation. You know, about 10 years, until maybe 8 years ago, they found 2 soldiers, Japanese soldiers from World War II, in the forests of Taiwan, and they came out with the, you know, these guns that are like 2 meters high still, and with the sword still stick on them, and ready to fight. So the war is still on. They just disappeared in the jungle there, and they found them about 8 or 10 years ago. So the American couldn't understand what's going on. Who are these people we are fighting against? So they tried to. This why they did this camps. And Margaret Mead wrote an amazing book. She was more famous actually for her research in other places like Papua New Guinea. But this one is a masterpiece. And but what I want to say is, the moment the American came in, or the moment the emperor said, he didn't use exactly the word "we are giving up" or "we are surrendering." He didn't use that one. The Japanese changed 180 degrees. Suddenly they became big fans of America. I told you about Starbucks. Yeah? Starbucks is a big thing in Japan because it sells the feeling of America, something a little bit different. And I'm telling you that not out of my mind, because my friend did research on that. This was her PhD in Kyoto University about the success of Starbucks. I'm originally from Israel. Starbucks is a complete failure in Israel. Why? Because Israel has a tradition of coffee, of good coffee. People go for a coffee shop for the taste of the coffee, and Starbucks is not high level of that. I don't know how coffee addicts are you, but I think you might agree with me. No?